with the refuge Nundro that have been in progress, I participated in refuge Nundro in, I think it started in January of 2016. And back then I was pretty much, when I would visualize, I would just think of Shakyamuni Buddha as the guru, as the Buddha, as the result of the Dharma, the manifestation of the Dharma, and the Sangha. And this time I went, I started with Namo Guru Bhya and went very deep into that. And I looked at that in many different ways. And so I picked up the book, Transforming Adversity into Joy and Courage. I said, there's a verse in there in the root text about refuge. So I started to read that section. And then I'm just thought, I'm going to start this book from the beginning again and read it again. So I was reading about the 8 freedoms and the 10 fortunes, and relating that to the guru, because we can look at the guru in many, many ways. The Buddha was our original guru, and the lineage has been handed down to us from the guru, from the Buddha to his disciples, to their disciples, on and on. A whole lineage, a whole unbroken line of gurus for 2,600 years, or we wouldn't have these teachings. So I was kind of born in a barbaric land, but I would not have a fortunate human life if I did not have the teachings that were handed down. So even though I would be still living in a world where the Buddha came and the Buddha taught, if we didn't have gurus teachers handing the teachings down generation after generation, we wouldn't have the teachings. And it would make a lot less difference to us that a Buddha came. The Buddha, having come, even if we didn't have the teachings, would have affected the world that we live in now. But if we didn't have these teachings, we wouldn't have precious human life. So we would have a human life, but we wouldn't have that. But I also think about the fact that I have been born human, which means I practiced some sort of ethical conduct in the past. And you can bet that I had someone that guided me in that. So I could have been born as a hell being, a predator, an animal. There's a lot of options out there. And what we're taught is most beings are in those lower realms. But being born as a human, I had somebody teaching me ethical conduct in the past. So I've had gurus in the past. I have my own thoughts on that I've probably practiced Buddhism in the past a lot. And we wouldn't be living in a place where the teachings were available to us if we didn't have people that were actively spreading it now. So that's also, we don't really have a central land quite yet, but we're on the verge of it. Once the ordinations happen in this country. But the other way of looking at the Buddha, another way of looking at the Buddha, the guru, is that we take the teachings and we internalize them so that they're within us, and that's kind of the guru within. I'm sure when Venerable Children has a problem with an affliction or something, she doesn't go call His Holiness and say, "What do I do?" She doesn't, call up, and a lot of her teachers are gone, but she's internalized those teachings. But and so I've been thinking about this what the spiritual mentor is in many ways as I do this part of the Nundro. But the most important part of this, I think, is that we have a person that can teach us the Dharma and guide us in we have personal contact with in this life. I mean, I can look at the books of Shantideva, and his book, Tsongkhapa's books, and say, I could consider these people my gurus. But I have, my root guru is Venerable Chodron. Thank you, Venerable. I would not be here in robes if it wasn't for her. I was interested in Buddhism for a long time, but I really didn't have, I didn't know what, I did not have a good Buddhist worldview. And I started reading some books by His Holiness. And I also would consider him an important guru for me, because that's what led me here. Because I read some of his books and thought about needing to be around other practitioners, and that is how I found my guru. And also, I was ordained not only with my full ordination, but also with my Shramanera ordination by Chinese bhikshus who I do not have much contact with. But I consider them also to be my gurus. And when I went over to Taiwan, I must have a connection with Venerable Master Sin Tien, because he was my preceptor in Seattle for my novice ordination. And he was a stand-in backup in Taiwan. And the preceptor fell sick. And here comes Venerable Master Sin Tien. And people are like, who is this? I'm like, I know who that is. The only thing I knew that they didn't all know. But I feel like, we have connections, I think, with our teachers that can go back a long ways. And if you have really high realized teachers, they may realize that. We're taught when, if we pick up a bug and we move it out of the trail, to say mantras to it so we make a connection with it. I say mantras to the turkeys. And maybe someday, in some future life, I'll have high realizations and they'll be students, But I probably won't remember that, and they won't remember that. So some of our teachers may have done that for us in past lives, and we might not know it, and they might not remember it, or they might. I don't know of someone else's mind and what they can remember. But the other thing I wanted to say is we have a lot of different ways to show respect to our teachers, and that varies from culture to culture and tradition to tradition. And these are very good things to show respect to our teachers. But a lot of what I focused on is what lies behind that, of focusing on the appreciation and coming to some understanding of how important it is that we have teachers. When I was a teenager, and I think again later, I read Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, which is a fictional novel, thank you. But he has Siddhartha and the Buddha being two characters, and they meet, and Siddhartha is very impressed, but he ends up leaving. He says, you didn't gain your realizations following someone else, and I won't gain those realizations following you. I have to find the path. This is a big premise in that story. This is something the self-centered mind can have a field day with. We do need teachers. We may take 3 countless great eons with being taught to complete the path. We may wander in samsara forever without having a teacher, recognizing their value, and following their teachings.